All right. It's Monday. I'm having a
Mm.
Monday of a Mondays,
Uh-oh.
but
Sure. Better for Sundays.
right, yeah, yeah. Or continuing in Proverbs 10. Let me grab the Hebrew, see what it looks like. Mary's favorite.
Yeah. I'll hear about that. I think I'm keeping up. I think I'm doing well in the book, and then when I get to the class, I
See, that's why she's doing good.
doing it. Well, am I? Yeah, I hope.
What happened to my internet? Okay, there it goes. Wise sayings of Solomon. This is not the version I want. I want the side by side. Where are you?
Nice attendance. I thought if people knew she wasn't going to do this.
Yeah, yesterday, good.
Oh, sure.
Well, so one of the fun things about this is one of the first proverbs we've had. I'm going to share the screen so everyone sees. Well, at least when we have a couple participants that do it online. Share screen. And I'll share it with you too. So in the Hebrew, the first verse includes the Proverbs of Solomon. And if you look at your English version, it probably more or less like seems like a wise child makes a glad father. Like that's verse 1. But in Hebrew, it starts like the Proverbs of Solomon.
Mine's both.
Both?
Yeah, mine is both. Capital 10, little bold print, and then it says the Proverbs of Solomon, colon, and then a Y70.
All right. Well, that's a good one. I don't know. Mine's kind of like in Kathy's and my Bible, it kind of looks like it's almost a subtitle, doesn't it? Yeah. And not really with the others. But a lot of in the Psalms, you know, like when it says like a Psalm of David or something like that, and that's not really included in our verse. That's included in the first verse, usually. So this is a Proverbs of Solomon. And we don't have really any shape or form, but let's read it. Shall I begin? Begin. A wise child makes a glad father, but a foolish child is a mother's grief. Treasures gained by wickedness do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry, but he thwarts the craving of the wicked. A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. A child who gathers in summer is prudent, but a child who sleeps in harvest brings shame. Blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. The memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. Oh, gosh, see? All right, Kathy, take it away.
The wise of heart will heed commandments, but a babbling fool will come to ruin. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever follows perverse ways will be found out. Whoever winks the eye causes trouble, but the one who rebukes boldly makes peace. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. On the lips of one who has understanding, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of one who lacks sense. The wise lay up knowledge, but the babbling of a fool brings ruin near. The wealth of the rich is their fortress. The poverty of the poor is their ruin.
The labor of the righteous leads to life. The wages of the wicked to sin. He who keeps instruction is in the way of life, but he who refuses correction goes astray. Whoever hides hatred has lying lips, and whoever spreads slander is a fool. In the multitude of words of sin is not lacking. Sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. The heart of the wicked is worth little. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for the lack of wisdom.
The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich and adds no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. The fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be granted. When storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Lazy people irritate their employers like vinegar to the teeth or smoke in the eyes. Fear of the Lord enlightens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes of the good result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a stronghold to those with integrity, but it destroys the wicked. The godly will never be disturbed, but the wicked will be removed from the land. The mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speak perverse words.
Right. Anything fascinating? I mean, really, this is just, seems like it's just a collection of sayings of Solomon. So it's not really a story. It's not really anything you can quite put together, but it's like wisdom in a sense.
So I like, in my Bible, it says verse 19, too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut.
Well, how does read verse 19? No, you're the one with the message.
I'm the one
Oh,
with the
you're the one
message.
with
The message is, the more talk, the less truth. The wise measure their words.
Oh, and mine is the fear of the Lord will prolong days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened.
That's 19.
That's 27, I'm sorry.
All right.
I was gonna say, that was really different.
Whoa, there you go.
Whoever hides hatred has lying lips. Whoever spreads slander is a fool. That's 18. Anyone, 19?
Yeah.
In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise.
There, that one makes sense.
His lips.
I liked it, I understood him, but I thought, is that really? Like 27, the fear of the Lord prolongs life, but the years of the wicked will be short.
Is it?
Right.
I like the verses, I mean, I found it charming reading, I liked reading it. But I wondered, is that really true?
Well, now here's the,
You righteous people live a lot longer life than evil people.
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
listen to the message, you get a different
Oh,
interpretation. The fear of God expands your life. A wicked life is a puny life.
So I think that's a little bit better at what it's kind of
That's how
adjusting.
quality of it.
Yeah.
Quality, right.
And that makes good sense.
So,
Right.
the definition of life is richness, rather
That's
than
the whole
length.
different
Yeah.
story.
And right now I think this is a different chapter than we have ever had so
Yeah.
far in Proverbs. So we kind of have a base of what Proverbs is all about. It's about understanding God and how to live life in God and how to glean wisdom from God and live that life. So, right. So I mean, that's a very modern question, I think, Mary, that you
Okay.
brought up with, and which is, I think everyone grapples with, because there are many Christian thoughts where if you're a Christian and you go to church and you do everything, you're gonna have it all.
Yeah.
You're gonna have the riches, you're gonna have the cars, you're gonna have everything. And which is coined a prosperity
Prosperity, yeah.
gospel,
Oh,
which, you know, I can't, I mean, it just happens. The way I view it though is that I think what the message says, or how it defines it, more quality than anything, because, you know, doing everything that God has told you to do is not going to make you the richest person in the whole world, but it's going to make you rich in a sense that your life will be full.
Listen to 22. God's blessing makes life rich.
Mhm.
Nothing we do can improve on God.
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And mine says, blessings of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no trouble to it.
And I totally
That's not
agree
what
with
we
that.
do.
Like, but I mean, it's your understanding of what is wealth.
Right.
What is wealth? You know,
Yeah, not money.
not
Right.
money. Yeah, it's not
But
money.
can't buy your health, and
I was really troubled by
Happiness.
something.
Well, money can buy happiness to a certain extent. You know, if you're
Right.
living in poverty, it's hard to be
Right.
happy.
Well, and right, okay, right, exactly. So in the sense that we could take some of these verses of like in this chapter of Proverbs about like the slack hand or so, if Proverbs is teaching you how to live a life in God, what has God called us to do? I mean, every prophet in the Old Testament has said you're supposed to take care of the poor and the widows and the orphans. And, you know, so if we're, in a sense, we could read that slack hand as not just a single person, but a group of people. If we are God's people and we are not providing for those who need, right? We're not providing that full richness of what God has intended.
and now, I mean, when these were written, the world was so different too.
World is so
You know,
different.
and now, you know, we know everybody in the world, you know,
Yeah.
where then it was just, they're select people's there, you know, and well, I mean, other people too, but I mean, in that area, they didn't know. They were there. That's something.
Yeah,
I
you
was
were, yeah.
really troubled by something. I think I know what you're going to say, but you have to understand why I had trouble with it.
Okay, all right.
And it was 3 or 4 different times. But if you look at verse 31,
31.
the mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off.
Okay.
See, and it was in here like 3 different times, and I thought, oh no.
Oh, well, I don't think you're right. And you have a different story. It doesn't have anything.
I know it doesn't, but it troubled me. I thought, oh, it's especially got my name in here.
So I think you bring up a good, because I think there are people who, like, for example, my preaching professor in seminary was absolutely legally blind. He could not drive. He walked with a cane. He had really thick glasses. He could read, but like, and when he would lead class, I mean, he'd print up all of his notes so that we can follow along, but he read right here. And this is how he read. But he couldn't, but he had deep conversations about what it meant that Jesus healed a blind person, but here he was.
Oh, yeah.
So what does that mean? You know, and so I think it's okay to struggle with verses like that, but it's also, you can sit with that for a little bit, but try to pull yourself as to what does this actually mean? Because I think it's more or less about like, maybe even, and I think, you know, going back, it's a different world. What does the tongue do? In a sense.
I see.
it creates the letters and the words. So I wouldn't just put it as physical,
Yeah.
a little, but go with the voice, right? The mouth of the righteous, butteth with wisdom, the mouth. I mean, they wondered because there was this movement and this sound that was coming from people. Well, where was this coming from?
But
And
some people also use that.
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. But I would not, yeah, and we can't look at people who go through surgeries, who lose limbs or things like that. In Indiana, there was a young girl who had to have her eye removed. So I mean, yeah, it's, but it's okay to be uncomfortable with it for a little bit, because it's your story and it's your
Well, I wanted to know
life.
what you had to say about that, because I didn't really think that, but there was a tie and it bothered me. a little bit.
Sure,
I wondered what
absolutely.
you wanted to say about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. That I thank you very much.
And I ignored it the first time and the second time, but then this one
Well-
was too slow in my face.
Yeah, right? The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked, what is, that's 32. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a struggle against doing good and doing evil. Because that's what the last
And
9
I
chapters.
think our way of thinking is different nowadays too than what it was way back then.
Sure.
People understood, look, they probably did cut people's tongues
I was
out
just
and
gonna
use that
say,
kind
did
of
they
violent
cut
thing,
Yeah.
I
Or
don't
no.
know.
I
I'm
wonder if
hoping-
Dr.
we would-
Burkhart knows this verse. Sorry.
Oh man, I hope they didn't come, but yeah, I didn't. We
Well,
only
they
know
had
so
different
much.
methods. Different methods completely.
Yeah,
Not
different
different.
punishments way
Yeah,
back then
sure.
too,
Oh, yeah, brutal.
Brutal,
punishment. Cutting out a tongue, I bet happened.
Yeah, I bet it did too. Like if you stole a loaf of bread, they
I read
I
it.
did.
cut off their hand.
Yeah,
Eyes, didn't they take out Samson's eyes?
Yeah,
They take out people's eyes still. For
Yeah, but
Yeah.
invasive,
Not for torture,
no, right,
right. Back then it was a
but
different
you
kind of,
they do
They
the
cut off limbs
radiation
and
law.
slavery.
Yeah.
hmm
well, I think that, the Old Testament is that you were, feared God and were afraid what was going to happen if you didn't do something right.
Sure.
But then we got, Jesus came and in the New Testament and, no, he's a loving and a kind God, it's like your idea of him changed. Anyway, mine did,
More important, you look at the whole chapter and not at.
Right, I don't know that
Because
one.
the
Then
whole
pick that
thing,
all
when I
apart.
started reading this, I thought.
Where is this going?
this
Yeah.
is Horrible, all these
Yeah.
verses, this is good, this is bad, this is.
Yeah.
I thought, but it wasn't, it was fascinating.
Yeah. It had that rhythm, that pattern throughout the whole thing.
is this where, like, they had what, 600 and some commandment?
6:13.
What they had was this some of them that they had to follow or?
Well,
Is it totally
Proverbs,
different?
Proverbs was more like teachings rather than laws.
Hmm.
A lot of the laws will be found, Genesis, Deuteronomy, Leviticus is a good chunk of them, Numbers, that kind of. But yes,
This probably refers back to it.
sure.
If you looked up the Proverbs of Franklin, it would be the same thing, all unrelated little
Oh, yeah.
sections.
Yeah, yeah.
They just collectively say.
Mhm.
Talk about the- Here's another story. Just recently, Jack Nicklaus, famous golfer.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Nicklaus was inducted as a resident of St. Andrews. And
Oh,
he was in tears during the presentation. It was a very big
Oh,
deal,
my
evidently.
goodness.
And it came out there are only two others in history. And the two others were Bobby Jones, also a great golfer, and Ben Franklin. There are only
Huh.
3 people who are residents of St. Andrews.
What's St. Andrews?
Oh, it's the biggest golf course in the world. It's
Oh,
Scotland. It's where
it must,
golf
is
started.
it, it's not here in the United
Scotland.
States, Scotland, okay.
Scotland. It's a very
Thank you.
big deal.
Prestige.
That's
I
where
mean,
the
it sounds
biggest
like a big
tournament
deal.
every year. And people live their whole lives. We know a couple of people.
Yeah.
Ted Health, I think,
I think so
has
too.
golfed at St. Andrews. And it's
Yeah.
people who are serious golfers. That's a life.
I'm not a serious
To even
golfer.
see
I'm
it.
not a serious
To
golfer.
even see it.
I'm
But
not.
to
I do
go-
know Jack Nichols though, when he mentioned that, I was like, I got that. I mean, I keep up with, try and. Interesting, Ben Franklin.
Bobby Jones and who?
Ben Franklin.
Oh, I get it, did he?
Not to my knowledge. Oh, yeah, golf is hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Oh,
Many
gosh, it
hundreds.
is, yeah, yeah.
Like medieval times.
Like in day
Mhm.
3.
But
Yeah.
that's something to say.
Well, that's, I mean, it tied in kind of, that's funny.
Well, it didn't.
Well, should we try and tackle 11? Let's try and
A
tackle.
false
11.
balance is an abomination to the Lord, but an accurate weight is his delight. It says right here somewhere that this chapter is honesty in business.
Yeah.
When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but wisdom is with the humble. Ooh, they reversed it, now the good things in the second half of
Yeah.
the The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the blameless keeps their ways straight, but the wicked fall by their own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright saves them, but the treacherous are taken captive by their schemes. When the wicked die, their hopes perish. Their hope perishes, and the expectation of the godless comes to nothing. The righteous are delivered from trouble, and the wicked get into it instead. With their mouths, godless would destroy their neighbors, but by knowledge the righteous are delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there is jubilation. By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked.
Whoever belittles another lacks sense, but an intelligent person remains silent. A gossip goes about telling secrets, but one who is a trustworthy in spirit keeps a confidence. Where there is no guidance, a nation falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. To guarantee loans for a stranger brings trouble, but there is safety in refusing to do so. A gracious woman gets honor, but she also hates virtue. But she who hates virtue is covered with shame. The timid become destitute, and the aggressive gain riches. Those who are kind reward themselves, but the cruel do themselves harm. The wicked earn no real gain, but those who sow righteousness get a true reward. Whoever is steadfast and righteous will live, but whoever pursues evil will die. Crooked minds are an abomination to the Lord, but those of blameless ways are his delight. Be assured the wicked will not go unpunished, but those who are righteous will escape. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman without good sense. The desire of the righteous ends only in good, the expectation of the wicked in wrath. Some give freely, yet grow all the richer. Others withhold what is due and only suffer want. Go ahead.
Generous person will be enriched, and one who gives water will get water. The people curse those who hold back grain, but a blessing is on the head of those who sell it. Whoever diligently seeks good seeks favor, but evil comes to the one who searches for it. Those who trust in their riches will wither, but the righteous will flourish like green leaves. Those who trouble their households will inherit wind, and the fool will be servant to the wise. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, but violence takes lives away. If the righteous are repaid on earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner?
Just another, it sounds like it's just a continuation of, yeah, it is. It's just a continuation of Solomon's sayings. So we still have that kind of contrast, that give and take.
The comparison in 31 is quite intense.
Mhm.
I have trouble with 16.
16.
Yeah, I have a question mark here.
Okay.
The second half of 16, the timid become destitute, but the aggressive gain riches. That has so much more to do with personality than with action. You know, it's, I don't know, some people are timid, some people are aggressive. Verse 16, the second half of it.
No. But and the only well.
Mine says, that seems backwards.
A gracious woman retains honor, but ruthless men retain riches. Maybe that's all we got is riches.
Is there a second half of 16 in your book?
Ruthless men retain riches, that's all. So, yeah.
No, this says aggressive gain riches.
But the
I don't,
aggressive.
aggressive, that to me sounds wicked.
Let's
Ruthless.
see.
The timid become
Ruthless.
destitute. Some people
I
are
always
timid.
like that. Let's
Right.
see. I'm gonna do over.
Right.
Let's stop share. I'm gonna look at the Hebrew.
The ruthless sounds like, you know, no matter what, they want the riches,
Yeah,
no matter who it
Yeah.
destroys.
and I thought this was interesting. They shoved 2 whole verses into 1 verse. Most of these are good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, but this one is good, bad, in 1 verse.
Well, I don't know that you necessarily can say that maybe that's not following the pattern. The timid become destitute, but the aggressive.
It does follow
Yeah.
pattern, but I'm saying this verse does it twice. in one
Right,
verse.
yeah.
Yeah.
They don't quite seem to be related why they're all one verse.
Yeah,
Isn't that odd?
it might, yeah. Well, this might, yeah, it might not really be meant to be separate verses. I don't know.
Verse 18, evil people get rich for the moment, but the reward of godly will last. Will have a true reward.
And what do you, what's your question about though? You're about,
It seems backwards. The timid become destitute. Timid people aren't bad. They're the ones that are holding back, which they told you to do in the other verses. And now they're saying the timid become
Ruthless.
destitute. And then it says aggressive gain riches. It seems to me aggression is a bad thing. But they're saying, now they're saying
this is
it's almost like the quiet people
I'm gonna
get what they want. And oh, wait a minute. The quiet people are gonna lack for things. And the aggressive people are gonna get rich. That seems.
Yeah.
wow.
Well, maybe it's saying that the person who stands up for themselves gains riches. Instead of
Well,
hiding.
maybe
This
even
is-
stands up to
what
the
is-
Lord.
I think.
This is interesting. Okay, wait. Read your 16, verse 16.
Oh, read this verse 16.
Yeah, or no, Susie, from Susie's, because we have the same
A
Bible.
gracious woman retains honor, but ruthless men retain riches.
Is that it for 16?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So like in ours, we have,
this extra part, and that's not in the message either.
Well, you need this whole second half.
the
Doesn't need
timid,
other
yeah, the timid become destitute, but so I don't know
Oh, no.
why. Unless that's like,
strong man retain riches. In the King James.
Oh, so that kind of puts the 4 lines together into 2. Read that
Yeah,
again.
A gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches.
I mean, that's pretty much, so the Hebrew, that's what it is. That's all it is.
Is riches just money?
And then in the New
Yeah.
International, it goes like what you read, you know.
Now, in the Message, it says, a woman of gentle grace gets respect, which I understand that from the first part, but men of rough violence grab for loot.
Oh,
So that gives a whole different connotation of that last part.
Mhm. Well, in the, so, let's see, the Hebrew is, Baritzim, Aritz, and that, so it could either, is the definition of Aritz is awe-inspiring or terror-striking. Yeah.
yours is aggressive.
In other translations, there's dread, most ruthless men, tyrant, violence. Yeah, I would, tyrant would define it, I think. That's interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of, we're thinking about something, but we're struggling because like in the Hebrew, it's only that. But where did the second part come from?
In life that.
Oh, got it. Got it. Did you read this little itty bitty bit down here?
Hebrew,
So, and that part, the
the
C,
timid, destitute.
where is it? So there's a little itty bitty blue
Yes, I
C.
see it.
Okay, now you have to go down to the, under this
Yeah.
blue bar, it says the Greek, Hebrew lax. So that, this is, so this was written in Hebrew, but another one that was written Proverbs, like the Greek, has that with this
Oh,
verse.
okay.
So we have 2 different versions, really.
Okay.
So that first half is the, like, I don't know about if it's, I wouldn't say original, but it's just kind of a combination of what has transpired for the book of Proverbs. So what we're reading, that second half, is almost like a clarity. I don't know. I don't
And
know.
strong man retain riches. So you have to be a leader. Strong man.
Yeah.
The King James says strong.
Mhm.
And men is. So it's an accent on the men.
Wow.
It's funny they didn't give more explanation of that in the study Bible, if somebody didn't catch on to that. And give some help.
I like 22. A beautiful woman who lacks discretion is like a gold ring in a pig's snout.
They went over here and
Yeah.
explained that, because I looked that up.
What's the thing?
Women of the time wore nose rings as jewelry.
Yes.
Like,
But what they're saying is inner character counts more than outer beauty.
a gold ring and a pig's snout is a beautiful face on an empty head.
Now we're back to our
It
names and
says
notes.
all the fancy jewelry is not as important.
Exactly.
Did I see that part about your character then?
About what's this?
Your character?
Um, Women of the time wore nose rings as jewelry. Inner character counts more than outer beauty.
Okay.
So it's not important to have a gold ring. in the nose.
Yeah,
It might be
I would think
beautiful,
so.
but innocent.
Right.
So, in the Luther, we kind of study on Proverbs in this chapter. We, like Mary alluded to, like this is the honesty in business dealing. So like for they highlight Proverbs 11:1. And it says, here's a call for honesty in buying and selling. And archaeologists have discovered at some locations in ancient Israel, different sets of weight for buying in or selling. And so the same concern is expressed with some variations in throughout Proverbs and Deuteronomy and Amos and Micah. The issue is that the poor are being cheated in the marketplace.
Yeah, I read something about
Yeah.
that too, when they said, they explained that add weight. I kind of question that, but they said it's when their weight things are inaccurate, you know, how they put up 1 pound on here, but it might be 14 ounces in actuality, but it's not. I question one thing over here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look at that. So, when you're there,
It's still there.
well,
Yeah.
I
On
won't
that,
find it. but
can
it's-
I say something about what we just talked about before you?
Uh-huh.
Does this have anything to do with the idea that the Jewish people have always been thought of as being very good businessmen?
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, that's
And they were always rich. You know,
Well, I think that's just I think that's almost a stereotype. To say it's
but
a,
they were always merchants and stuff. And they
Sure.
always,
Well,
Sure.
and like when
Well,
they were
history,
discriminated against, they weren't allowed other
Very.
types of jobs. That was the place that they
Yep.
had
yep,
dealing with the money, which was considered kind of dirtier.
yep. Stereotype.
I remember our dad using the expression.
Jew and down.
Drew 'em
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
not a good one. I know, I remember hearing some older generations, I'm like, "Woo, not good anymore, don't do that now, not good. Not good, but yeah, that was a stereotype in a sense. 26,
26.
Okay.
The purpose, first of all, who hold that ring, but the blessing is on the head of those who sell it. Sell it? I would have thought it would say the blessing is on the head of those who give it to people who need it.
This says,
Um,
curses on those who drive a hard bargain, blessings on those who play fair and square.
Oh, that means, yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
that's how, yeah. Here, the way this is, I think they sold it a little short.
Sure.
Right.
But the
And that's
blessing
what-
on those who
Which one
sell
is
it,
that again?
that's
26?
11, yeah.
You were speaking to a long one and a short one. Right.
No, I don't go there. Mine is sideways.
Oh,
Mine is
because
left and right.
he that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him. But blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth.
I want to see this.
I think that kind of
That's
goes
King
back to
James.
Joseph. Joseph. That he didn't keep the corn, he sold it to his relatives. They went to Egypt to buy corn.
Right, right.
This was
They
available.
didn't go to beg for corn, free.
Right. At least it was available.
I guess that's more realistic. than-
All right, let's see, the Hebrew is bar or barar, which is grain or corn. Yeah.
For
Barar.
Interested hearing them talk about corn relative to the Holy Land, because I was under this understanding that corn is an American food, that when the Pilgrims came, they hadn't been
One
familiar
kind
with
of corn.
corn. I don't know.
Been put around for a long time.
It's been a long, yeah, I mean, it can definitely, I mean, grain and corn were grown
Yeah.
over there for sure. For sure, pomegranate,
Yeah,
dates.
And I know they kind of interchange grain and corn, but we don't consider corn to be a grain.
No.
But, you know, it's a whole different.
But it
Yeah,
is.
silly corn.
And is it, I always considered corn a grain.
Oh, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't.
I get just because I'm flesh you. Flesh you. Are you okay? I mean, it's a, I don't think it's a vegetable.
Corn?
Yeah, it's, I don't think it's considered a vegetable. Dietary, it's a grain.
Well, it's a carbohydrate.
Hey Siri. Oh, hey Siri.
Yeah.
See, it doesn't work now. Whenever I want to, and then when I don't want it to work, it works, right? Yeah. What else we got? 11. Yeah, what is it?
They made flour out of it, didn't they? Some kind of.
Yeah.
oatmeal.
Yep, cornmeal. Right.
That is, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a carbohydrate.
Yeah.
For sure.
Fresh corn is considered a starchy vegetable.
Okay.
Its nutrient content differs from dry corn, and it is eaten several different ways, often on the cob side dish mixed with other vegetables. Here, ask the USDA.
Mary's full of knowledge. This is
Well,
great.
what is that corn that's different
Oh,
colors?
I can't get into that.
Tricolor, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
we
I
have-
I should say,
Native American corn.
Or
Five, there's like monocolored,
Oh, why
bicolor,
is it
tricolor.
corn, because they come from the seed or flower. In contrast, vegetables are from huge stems and other parts of it.
Got it.
Can I remember that?
Now we go to health line. Is corn a vegetable? Corn is not a vegetable. Many grains, including corn, are considered to be fruit.
Fruit.
Vegetables are from plants, stems, and other parts of the plant.
Oh
don't
my
want to know that.
goodness.
We don't want to-
But I did make a really good homemade cream corn for the meal last night. That was super good. Oh gosh.
Yep, I always do.
I don't like it
Kathy
in
used to
cans
make a
though.
wonderful-
No, my mother did, and we never can find that recipe. I always look.
This
around to
was
look
easy.
up
This
for
was
that.
cream cheese, corn, milk, a little bit of sugar, salt, pepper, and thyme. Oh, it's so good.
That recipe.
Yeah, and I just threw it all in a
I
crock
know
pot.
that's not my mother's recipe. There was no cream cheese. in it.
Right, yeah.
But you can't
There
go
was
wrong
cream-
with cream cheese.
I think it was-
Yeah.
Sure. Cream of butter. Yes, there was butter in it too.
Kathy worked the cream line at what?
Green
Green Giant.
Giant.
Oh, that's one place.
I think that must have been even worse than pickles.
We did, we always saw pickles go fast.
I worked at Ronald Cheese, and when I had to do Limburger. Oh, I love Limburger. I know, when I smelled. And I sat in the car until I got.
My dad loved Limburgers.
My grandma did.
Never, I don't think I've ever
Smells
had
like
it.
Limburgers.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
Well, your nose, I just can't be too hard.
Well, maybe something. I don't know.
You gotta bring them in.
Write it down somewhere.
Well, you know what, all right, even though this is really fast, this is how when you study scripture and stuff, how these things kind of make you look a little bit more, all it was the word corn.
Yeah, Limburger cheese.
Yeah, it was Limburger cheese. So the other one, I just want to point out their study in 14, which is the one that mentions nations, 11:14. Where there's no guidance, a nation falls, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety.
I got that all in 14.
I have written here and I don't know where I got it. God bless, oh, came out here, I think. God bless our native land. It refers to verse 14.
Yeah. So this is one of the rare proverbs that concerned with the nation, not the individual. The warning is against the concentration of power in too few individuals or in one individual, or against leaders who do not take counsel with advisors. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's one of my favorite lines. As Lord Acton is reported to have said in a letter to Bishop Mandel Creighton in 1887. This is the case for a system of checks and balances in government.
Boy, is that appropriate for today.
Yeah.
Right, 2 more weeks until my youngest daughter asks, so when's it gonna end on the TV?
It never ends.
It'll only be another 10 years.
What they could do with all that money.
Oh, yeah.
To help people.
And
Yeah.
there is no need to be honest in your ads. They
No.
have no,
No, and
Right,
they
and you
got
got-
commercial.
It's hard to
Yeah.
decipher.
Yeah.
It's hard to decipher.
you don't know.
But do we want to tackle one more? I know it's 11:08, or do we want to pause and tackle 2 more next week?
There wouldn't- you could certainly start with 12,
Yep.
next week instead of 12,
I have a
13.
written
But it is
12, yeah.
pretty short.
Okay, let's do 12 then. I 12 to tackle. Susie, you want to start with?
Whoever loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid.
Oh,
Okay? A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of wicked intentions, he will condemn. A man who is not established by wickedness, but the work of the righteous cannot be moved. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceitful. The words of the wicked are, lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright will deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand.
8. A sensible person wins admiration, but a warped mind is despised. Better to be an ordinary person with a servant than to be self-important but have no food. The godly care for their animals, but the wicked are always cruel. A hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies has no sense. Thieves are jealous of each other's loot, but the godly are well-rooted and bear their own fruit. The wicked are trapped by their own words, but the godly escape such trouble. Wise words bring many benefits, and hard work brings rewards. Fools think their own way is right, but wise often listen to others. Mary, 16.
Fools should get angry at once, but the prudent ignore himself. Whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence, but a false witness speaks deceitfully. Rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Deceit is in the mind of those who plan evil, but those who counsel peace have joy. No harm happens to the righteous, but the wicked are filled with trouble. That one I got a question about.
sure.
Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are his delight. One who is clever conceals knowledge. But the mind is a fool broadcasts folly. The hand of the diligent will rule, while the lazy will be put to forced labor. Anxiety weighs down the human heart, but a good word cheers it up. The righteous gives good advice to friends, but the way of the wicked leads astray. The lazy do not roast their game, but the diligent obtain precious wealth. In the path of righteousness there is life. In walking its path there is no death. I got a question mark there.
And mine never has the word tongue in it.
Can I go back to verse 23?
Sure.
I know, I need Abraham Lincoln thing about this. One who is clever conceals knowledge, but the mind of the fool broadcasts folly. Abraham Lincoln said, it is more important, it is harder to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're dumb than to open your mouth and prove it. And that's exactly what this says.
Talkative fools broadcast their sins.
That's good too. That's very interesting.
Wow.
Food fuels knowledge, the heart of food.
And by
So
20,
I think,
go ahead, I'm gonna change this.
I'm just saying that, it's not that you don't use your knowledge, it's that you don't kind of be like bragging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shouldn't keep
Yeah.
it off.
Yeah.
Here's 25, I wrote this next to it because I like. You want to look at 25 first? Yep. I wrote, don't worry about your life. I'm a worrier.
Worry weighs us down, a cheerful
Yeah.
word. fixes
I'm a big time worrier, but I like that one.
No kidding.
Well, in the study, they mentioned that verse 23 about when one doesn't know what to say, the best advice is often to keep silent.
Yeah,
But
silence is golden. Yep.
yeah, I mean, and they say like the Jewish tradition asks, how is one to distinguish the silent sage from the silent fool? The answer, the sage doesn't mind being silent. So I mean, there's time, I like talking, but there are times where you just are called to listen and take it all in. And again, I mean, that makes sense because Proverbs is instructions, and so you're kind of called to like take all this in.
Don't we all value people who are listening?
Yeah.
We all value people. who
Yeah.
think they know, or maybe even who really don't know. We don't value those as much as people who listen well.
Yeah.
It's hard to visit with them all. Because no matter what you say,
Yes,
you're
exactly
done.
right.
You know? And you can't get a word in edgewise.
Isn't that a good expression? You can't get it in edgewise. You have to take the word and turn it.
Yeah.
No, you still
It's
can't get it
still-
in.
still
Yeah,
nobody
oh
wants
my
to listen.
goodness, I never thought about that, but yeah.
You have to have rounded edges. Rounded edges.
But
Rounded
it's
edge.
also hard to visit somebody who doesn't do their part to keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
Right.
Pretty cool. You say something.
For
that's
sure.
Nobody wants to
Quiet at the wrong times.
But there's also, so like in, I mean, we were kind of almost trained in that and how to deal with those moments, when, especially when I was a resident in a hospital where there will be times that you just sit and you kind of, instead of instigating a conversation, just sitting there and waiting for that conversation to begin from that silent person, because there's a lot, usually it's the patient you're waiting for rather than the chaplain that start talking. But just how to be in those moments. So,
It's a very prudent person who knows, rather than to say, this is what I think, instead would say, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right. Is it so important
It's
to,
still a check,
to,
yours is important.
to put your viewpoint down and maybe we could really.
or yeah, and I think, right, yep, we're pointing at good ways of listening. And I think that's what this is, versus the kind of meant for us to figure out. Or just be like, this is what I heard you say, and then kind of go from
This
there
is
as
what I
to
think
like,
you said.
yeah, and to bring in your point, your view.
The Patrick used to always say that, remember when we had things with him at school? And he always said, this is what I think I heard you saying. And right there, to me, that railroaded the conversation because I had to think about, this is what I think I heard you saying. I never forget past that, it just kind of derailed.
Kind of compounds the problem.
Yeah.
He stopped in at our house, we were outside about a year ago. He told us what wonderful children we had, and how he enjoyed them so much and wanted to find out what was going on. Well, Julie song, I hammer down.
He taught psychology.
Um,
Gotta
Yeah.